What's up, AK family? Today we're doing a video that has been on the agenda for quite some time. We are giving you guys some tips for first-time cruisers. They're tested, tried, and true, so we know they work, and we want you guys to have the best experience possible. Yes. So, the first-time cruisers, this is for you.
If you're new to our channel, just subscribe now. If you like cruise videos, if you like vlogs, if you like life, subscribe. Just join the fam. Road to 10K, subscribe.
Okay, let's get into the video.
Yes. All right. Tip number 1, travel to port at least a day early. The last thing you want to do is fly into your destination where you're boarding and you get to the airport and there's a delay and you get to, let's say you're flying to Miami, you get to Miami at 4 o'clock. That's like, all aboard is like at 3:30.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to take that chance of something happening by flying in the day of. So travel at least a day early to where you're supposed to be.
Tip number 2. If you drive, you do not have to park at the cruise port. You can either park at a third-party parking garage or spot where you park your car and they shuttle you to the port. Or some hotels offer, if you stay close to a port, you can leave your car at the hotel and they will shuttle you to the port. Because the port parking is expensive. And if you want unless you just got money like that, you want the range or the Porsche.
Tip number 3 is to print all of your documents and keep it on you when you board the ship. Print out everything that you need to print out. Even if you don't think you need to have it printed, print it out. I print out everything. Hotel itinerary, you have to print your boarding pass. If you did decide to park somewhere else, like at a shuttle service, print out that confirmation and everything. Your excursions that you're doing, print out everything and keep it in one folder and take it in your carry-on when you get on the ship. And speaking of carry-on, that will roll into tip number 4. Make sure you have a carry-on packed for when you board the ship that day that has everything that you might need in it until later on when you can access your rooms and later when you get your suitcase. So if there's any medication that you need, don't pack that in your main luggage because you give that to the porters once you get to port. And you're not going to see that again until later. If you want to swim in the pool at the sail away party, make sure you have your swimsuit packed in there.
Tip number 5. It's very good idea to download the app for your particular cruise line. We have experience with Carnival.
With the app. With
the Carnival app.
And Disney.
And Disney. So on Carnival, I think it's like $5 if I'm not mistaken.
It was $5.
$5 taps into the network with a Wi-Fi on a cruise ship, and you're able to communicate back and forth through the app, not through iMessage or anything like that. It also has the itinerary. It has a layout of the ship. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have your phone to take pictures or take video or whatever.
Right.
So you will have the itinerary for the day, the daily activities, all that stuff there at the palm of your hand, so you know where to go, what's happening at what time, shows, dining hours, and all that stuff.
And it even shows you the menus.
Right.
For like the dining for that night, for lunchtime. So if you're curious, like, I wonder what's for dinner tonight, just in case you might want to skip the dining room, you can look at that on the app.
Right. Just download it before you leave cell tower range and you'll be good to go.
Yes, and that rolls into tip number
6,
which is to turn your phone off at the sail away party. Not turn it off, but put your phone on airplane mode. Because I think a lot of people that have never cruised before do not know that you have to turn your data off.
You get charged for roaming.
I have heard so many stories of people that, like, when they come back from their cruise and they get their bill for the next month, they're like, oh my gosh.
$1,000.
Put your phone on airplane mode. Cruising is a great way to disconnect from the world. Unless, you know, there's people at home. Maybe if you left your kids, you want to make sure you can check up on them or whatever. Then in that case, you can buy a Wi-Fi package, and then you can connect with them maybe through social media or something like that. But make sure you turn your phone on airplane mode at the sail away party, because that is when the ship takes off. And it's just a great way to be like, all right, I'm officially on vacay. I'm cutting off from the world. Let's have a good time.
Tip number 7. I think that's 7. All right. Do your homework.
Do your research.
So if you go online doing research and you see, or you see on a commercial the newest ship that a cruise line has to offer, and you go and you book an older ship, you have to understand that it's not going to be the same as what you saw on the newest ship.
Right.
You have to make sure when you're booking that you do your homework, do your research. You know, type in when was this ship made, how old is the ship, whatever.
Look up pictures of the ship.
Reviews, people's experiences on the ship. Very, very important. But you also have to take those as a grain of salt, because your experience may not be somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you do your homework on your cruise line and the actual ship that you are going on.
Tip number 8. Everything is not free on a cruise ship. I don't want to disappoint you. A lot of people think that cruises are just all-inclusive, and they're not. There are certain things, like if you want to get a massage at the spa, you have to pay for that. If you want to go to a specialty dining restaurant, you have to pay for that. There's usually a cover charge, or you just have to pay, you know, menu pricing. So don't get on board and you're walking around and you're like, oh, that restaurant looks real nice. We're going there tonight, and we're going there tomorrow, and the day after. You have to pay for all of that.
Tip number 9. If you're using a credit card, you have to notify your credit card company, because they will think that a charge in the Virgin Islands, the St. Kitts or Virgin Islands somewhere, or Bahamas, is a fraudulent charge if you use your credit card, and you will be standing there hearing decline or seeing decline. And
tip number 10 is to make sure that you have cash for tips and for when you're at the ports. Like when you're getting a t-shirt, some of those little stand-alone places, they don't take cards.
And a good tip on that is, if they see that you have cash in your hand, you're more likely to get a better deal.
That is so true, yes.
You can barter with them, and you can be about to walk out of the door and they'll go down like $10 on the price. Number 11, do not forget about gratuities. We usually do cash so they can get it immediately.
With the gratuities, you have the option when you book your cruise to prepay for your gratuities. If you don't have to if you don't want to, but if you don't prepay, it's like an average of like $12 per person per day. So at the end of the cruise, it is going to charge on your account that total amount for the week, or for however long your cruise is, for those tips for every day. I always go to customer service at the end of my cruise, and I ask them to take the tips off of our card, and then we pay with cash directly to each person that we feel deserves a great tip. So of course your room steward, and if you went to the dining room and stuff like that. So if you don't eat in the dining room the whole week, then there's no need for you to tip the people in the dining room. So it's certain things like that. You can kind of use your own discretion. Tip number 12, you cannot use cash on board. I know we just talked about cash and tipping the people with cash. That's fine, but you cannot use cash. Anything. You can't purchase anything with cash. On board with cash. Your card is your lifeline when you get on the ship. That is how you enter your room.
That's how you get off the ship. That's how you get on the ship. It's your best friend.
You need that thing right there, okay? For everything. Every purchase you make, if you buy any drinks, if you buy any specialty items, if you go shopping on board, you are using that as your form of currency for the whole trip. Right. You can set up a cash account on board, or you can use a card. If you use a card, they will put a hold on your account to a certain extent. I know every cruise line is different, but I know with Carnival, they put $100 hold on your card. You can set spending limits for your children if you want for their cards. And if you just want to set a budget for yourself so you don't overspend, right, you can set up a cash account and do it that way. Once it's gone, then it's gone. Right. I mean, you can always add more cash to your account if you want, but
Number 13, very important, guys. Don't think when you're leaving home or when you're leaving the airport to go to the cruise port, oh, I'll just buy it on the ship.
No.
Guys, I'm telling you, it's super inflated pricing. If you want a disposable camera, disposable cameras at the
$75
at the grocery store is probably going to be like $5 to $10. On the ship, you're going to probably pay $25.
$25. That's exactly what I was going to say.
$25 for a disposable camera. And you're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
and even the small things like shower gel.
It's going to cost you.
Yeah, like Tylenol and stuff like that. Get everything that you need before you get on the ship. Tip number 14. Prepay anything you can before you get on the ship. When earlier we were talking about prepaying the gratuities, I go back and forth with prepaying the gratuities because it is nice to just get that out of the way. But then if I'm on the ship and we don't end up going to dinner for the whole week, or if I just didn't have a good experience, then I would want to be able to adjust that. And I don't know if you can adjust it if you prepay.
Right.
So if you just feel like you just want to support the crew on board, go ahead and regardless, go ahead and prepay your gratuities, get that out of the way. Prepay for everything that you can, just so when you are on board, you just have less expenses. It's up to your discretion, but that's just a good tip. So just handling as much as you can financially beforehand, it'll help you out a lot.
Relieve the stress. Yeah. And surprise, at the end of the ship, you got a bill that you need to go in.
And you're like, oh my God.
Right. What's going on here? Tip number 15. The ship time and the local time can and will be different at some ports. You need to make sure that you are concerned with the ship time. If you are going based off of the port time, you could wind up being late returning to the ship.
Yes.
And they will leave you.
They will leave you. 100%,
they will leave you.
100%.
So you need to make sure that your watches and your phones are set to the ship's time.
Tip number 16. Cruise ships do offer special dining packages and drink packages if you want to save some money. So if you do plan on waking up and drinking, if you're trying to puke and rally all week long, like you just trying to drink and drink and drink, then you might want to get a drink package. It'll help you save a lot of money. And then if you want to experience like every single specialty dining thing that each cruise ship has to offer, it will probably be best for you to buy the dining package. You end up saving a ton of money. With the dining packages, you end up saving a ton of money by doing the package versus doing the cover charges or doing the menu pricing.
Tip number 17, get to all the events and shows that you want to go to early so that you can get a good seat. You definitely want to make sure that you get there on time because everybody...
Get there early.
Get there early so that you can get the seat of your choice. For example, our Sellaway party on Disney, we didn't get a good spot because we were, I don't know what we were doing. I don't know what we were doing. So we were up on the second deck.
In the corner.
She was sitting on chairs and stuff. Like, it was a whole bunch of people there. We got good footage, but that's because, I was holding the camera. But if you don't get there on time, you are going to be in the most awkward standing positions or sitting positions.
Tip number 18, depending on your cruise line, you want to pre-book everything that you can as soon as it becomes available. For example, Norwegian, for their shows and stuff like that, you do have to reserve those things. So you want to make sure you do all of that. So when you're on board, you can go into a standby line. So for example, when we went on the Escape Norwegian, we wanted to go to one show that we did not have pre-booked. So we had to wait in the standby line. And there is a chance that you might not be able to see that show. We were able to see it, but if the standby line is super long and they only let in a certain amount of and you might not be able to see the show. So if you pre-book it, you do not have to worry about, missing the show. Every cruise line varies.
Has a different
it depends. Like you don't have to pre-book on Carnival. Did we have to pre-book on Disney? No. You don't have to. So it depends on your cruise line. So that's why you just want to make sure that you do your research.
Tip number 19, do your homework, book your excursion through a third party because it's cheaper.
It's so much cheaper.
It's cheaper.
The excursion prices on cruise lines are ridiculously expensive. And another thing is you always get
more.
Well, for us, our experience is more personal.
It's always a one-on-one.
It's almost like it's private.
Exactly. A private excursion.
Yeah. And we don't pay extra for that.
Right.
Yeah.
All the people on the ship booking through the ship for their excursions, it is just going to be an overload of people.
I use TripAdvisor to book all of our excursions. And with TripAdvisor, you have a ton of reviews. So if there's a bad experience, if somebody got gypped or scammed or something, it's going to be on TripAdvisor. Right. That's how I book all of our excursions. And I look through all the reviews for at least like the past 3 months. I look through all the reviews. Some people upload pictures so you can see what they're doing, what it looks like. And it's just the way to go. The only thing I'll say about booking your excursions through the cruise line is that if you don't get back in time, they have a way to contact the ship and say, hey, we're not going to be back for another hour, and the ship will wait for you. If you did book the excursion, we have never had an experience where we were even pushing it to get back on board. Right. They always make sure we have plenty of time to get back to our ship. So that's something we've never had to worry about, but you never know. That's the only reason why I would say, like, if you wanted to book with the cruise line for a first time, you could, but I still wouldn't recommend it. Tip number 20 is to make sure that you call to request private seating in the dining room. So when you go to dinner, you will be seated. If you're a small party, if you're a party of 4 and you're seated at a table of 8, it'll be the 4 of you, and then it'll be a party of 4 on the other side of the table. So you're sitting with strangers, which some people like. They love talking, they love to get to know people, and you end up having a great experience. You make lifelong friends. We don't like that.
She don't like that.
I don't like that. I just want it to be us. Like, I came on the cruise to be with my man, okay? So if you want to have a private dining experience, make sure you call and ask to have a table for however
X amount of people.
Yeah, right. X amount of people. I always call and request a table for 2 so that when we go to the dining room, they take us right to our own table. 200 whose
heartbeat is one, and look at each other's eyes and say whisper sweet nothings into each other's ears.
Yes.
Tip number 21. Very important when you're booking your trip, your cruise ship, that you look at the layout of the ship so that you are not in the most busy areas of the ship.
Yeah.
Whether it be in next to an elevator corridor or right under the club or somewhere else like that. You want to make sure that you are somewhere that you can relax, get the sleep that you need. Look at the layout of the ship. I want to be close to the food, but I don't want to be around a whole bunch of elevators. So mid-ship, somewhere around there is good for me. and you determine that based off of what you like.
Tip number 22, don't book your flight home too early because you really never know what time you're going to get off the ship.
Very important to make sure that it's either in the afternoon, early afternoon,
at least 12 o'clock.
Tip number 23, do not feel that you need to book an excursion on every port. You will kill yourself.
If you have a port heavy vacation.
Like our very first cruise, we had 5 ports and we did something at every port. And we did. Yes, and by the end of the cruise, we were dead tired.
We were tired. It was fun, but we were tired.
You will be more tired. You need a vacation from your vacation.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't feel like you have to book an excursion at every port.
Tip number 24. This is for our alcohol drinkers. We don't drink, but this is a good tip, so we wanted to put this in here. When you're doing your research on your cruise line, you can bring a certain amount of alcohol on board. And soda as well. So do your research to see what you can bring. You can bring a 12-pack of soda, and then I think you can bring a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine. So just do your research because that will save you some money on board.
Our very last tip number 25. Guys, do not try to do everything.
Don't do it.
Don't try to do everything. That is coming from a person that loves to be into everything. I be trying to relax mentally and physically. She wants to run 100 miles an hour at all times.
I like to do everything. And
that is just not me.
This is a tip that I need to take myself because I like to do. I'm not going to take it though because I like to do everything. I just do. But it is a reality that you're not going to be able to do everything. You're just not. You're not going to be able to do everything. So don't get down or don't be sad if you can't do everything. There's just not enough time. Just book another cruise and go back, and that'll be the first thing on your list.
So you want to make sure that you take some time to actually relax because that's what a vacation is. Relaxation. Say it with me, Kyra. Relaxation. You want to take some time to relax so you don't lose your mind when you come back to these United States. I hope that this list of tips and tricks for cruising for the first time cruisers has helped you out in some way, form, or fashion. You can take it with a grain of salt, but these are tested and tried ways that we have tested ourselves, and they have been proven to work immensely when it comes to our vacation.
Yeah. And we also wanted to add some stuff of what to pack, but we are going to do a completely separate video on packing tips, what to make sure you pack and what you should leave at home.
Right.
So be on the lookout for that because that will be out soon.
Very soon.
Yes. So we do hope that this video helped you guys out if you are getting ready to go on your first cruise. If you are, let us know what cruise you're going on and when. And if you are not a first-time cruiser and you are still watching this video, and if you have any tips that we didn't mention, put them in the comments down below. Put them down below and let everybody else know as well. But that is going to do it. We hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Love you.
And if you didn't subscribe yet,
subscribe.
Join the fam. Road to 10K. Hey.
Peace. Love you guys.